Okay, I want you to imagine a map for a second, but not a normal map.
Right, not of a city or a country.
No. Picture a map of a burning building, and you are inside.
Okay.
The smoke is thick, alarms are just screaming, and you have one single goal. Get out.
That's a terrifying and vivid image to start with.
But it's the right one for today. Because what if that map, that exit route, was made of sound?
And that's exactly what we're looking at. We aren't just reviewing an album today. We are, I think, analyzing a survival mechanism.
We really are. We're doing a deep dive into the project Tougher Than You Know by the artist Hi-Fi and looking at all the notes here, the lyrics, interviews. This is not just, a collection of songs.
No, not at all.
She describes it herself as a neurological map of an exit.
And that phrase right there, neurological map, that's the whole key.
Yeah.
This is a documentation of a specific event.
A very specific one.
Leaving the sex work industry after a a negotiated power exchange went horribly wrong. An assault.
And it tracks the non-linear path of healing, of the brain healing itself. It's really a case study in how we process violation.
How we freeze, how we panic, and hopefully how we eventually find our way back to regulation.
It's heavy stuff. I'll be honest, when I first started reading the background, I thought, okay, this is going to be a grueling listen.
And, I mean, some parts of it are. You can't shy away from that.
No, you can't. But what completely hooked me, and what I think is going to hook you listening, is what the artist calls her sonic thesis.
The Civil War.
Yeah. A civil war in the sound itself. This is the part that I found so fascinating.
Me too. Because Hi-Fi isn't just writing lyrics about feeling bad. She is using the actual instruments to mirror the physiological state of her nervous system.
It's brilliant. She sets up this battle between two specific sounds. On one side, you have the violins.
High-tension classical strings.
Which is funny because I usually think of violins as, I don't know, elegant. Or maybe just sad.
Sure, but not here. Here, she says they represent her screaming intuition.
The screaming intuition.
Yeah, and think about the biology of that. High-frequency dissonant sounds. They trigger an immediate alert response in our brains. It's primal.
Like an animal's distress cry.
Exactly. It's the sound of a predator screeching. So when you hear those frantic, high-register violins on this album, that is the literal sound of the amygdala.
Brain's fear center.
Slamming the panic button. It's pure high-alert anxiety.
And then on the other side of this sonic battlefield, you've got the grunge guitars.
Muddy, distorted, just sludge-laden rock.
And they represent the complete opposite physiological state.
A total opposite. That is the freeze response.
Yeah.
It's what happens when fight or flight either fails or just burns out. The body shuts down.
To conserve energy.
And to numb the pain. That low-end, muddy, heavy distortion, that's the sound of depression. It's the sound of a lead blanket being thrown over your entire nervous system.
So that's our mission for this deep dive. We're going to track that war. We're going to follow the protagonist from the instant the tightrope snapped, through the sludge, into the chaos of PTSD, and then, hopefully, to a regulated nervous system.
It's a journey from the amygdala to the prefrontal cortex, all told through music. Let's get into it.
Okay, so we have to start at the beginning. Section 1, the violation. The track is called Handed You the Key.
And the context here is absolutely critical. This isn't a random attack. The protagonist was a sex worker, and this was part of a negotiated power exchange.
Can we break that down? Because I think for a lot of people, those words might sound like a contradiction. How do you negotiate a power exchange?
Well, it's a core concept in the BDSM and kink communities. The fundamental idea is that submission is a choice. It's a gift.
So the person submitting is actually in control.
In a way, yes. The submissive partner is the architect of the scene. They set the boundaries, the safe words, the limits. They are essentially saying, I am allowing you to take control, but only within these very specific parameters that I have designed.
And the lyrics completely back that up. She sings, I laid the blueprints out on the bed. I handed you power, a dangerous gift.
Blueprints. That's the word right there. It's so deliberate. She built the structure. She designed the cage herself.
She even says she wanted it, wanted the thrill, for the world to stand perfectly still. It sounds like she was looking for that kind of headspace where you can just let go.
A controlled release of responsibility. But this is where the sonic map kicks in. Remember those violins?
The high-tension strings, yeah.
They start playing while the lyrics are still talking about consent and desire.
That's strange, right? If she's agreeing to it, if this is all part of the plan, why is the panic music already playing?
Because the body keeps the score. The artist explains this herself. She says, the brain knows before you do. We have these primitive, intuitive systems.
The hairs on the back of your neck.
Exactly that.
Mm.
Cognitively, you might be thinking, this is fine, I agreed to this. But something deep inside is screaming, something is off here. Those violins are that scream.
And then comes the line that just, it made my stomach drop. I didn't notice the atmosphere shift.
That's it. That is the precise moment the contract is broken.
She calls it the tightrope snapped. And just like that, we're not in a scene anymore. We're in an assault. The lyric is, you stole the ending. You took my body. But the part that makes the trauma so complicated is this next line. I revoked the contract mid-sentence, mid-breath.
And this is the ethical and, frankly, the legal pivot point. In any negotiated scene, consent is ongoing. It is not a one-time signature.
It can be withdrawn at any second.
At any second. The moment she says stop or uses the safe word, the power exchange is over. Full stop. The power reverts to her.
But he didn't stop. She says he kept reading it, playing to death. He just ignored her.
And that creates a specific kind of trauma. It's sometimes called a moral injury, a betrayal of trust. It's not just that he hurt her physically.
It's that she handed him the weapon.
She handed him her permission, her trust.
Right.
And he used it against her after she explicitly asked for it back.
There's this devastating line. How do I bleed when I open the door? With my own permission as the weapon of war. She feels complicit in it.
And that is the absolute tragedy of this kind of violation. Because she initiated it, because she opened the door, a part of her brain will always try to blame herself for the violence that followed.
But that's a fallacy.
Of course it is. Opening your door to a guest isn't permission for them to burn your house down. But in that moment, the brain can't make that distinction.
The violins are just screaming because reality has shifted from play to predator.
And the conscious mind is just scrambling to catch up.
And then the music just changes. The violins cut out completely. We get into section 2, the park at dawn.
Right.
And the sound shifts. It gets so heavy, so muddy.
This is the freeze. Biologically, you can't stay in that high alert panic state forever. You physically run out of adrenaline.
So the body just shuts down.
When the trauma is overwhelming or when you can't escape and the violation has already happened so there's no escape,
Yeah.
the body goes into what's called a hypoaroused state. It shuts down.
And the guitars here are described as dragging like lead weights attached to ankles.
It's a perfect description.
The scene she paints is just so bleak. She's been left in a park. It's dawn.
And notice the sensory details she focuses on. They're crucial for understanding the dissociation that's happening.
What do you mean?
She talks about the air being hot, heavy like a blanket. She mentions dirt in my hair. It's all physical sensation.
There's no internal emotional monologue yet.
Not at all. That's very common in the immediate aftermath of trauma. You're not a person with feelings. You're just a body in a place.
But then the brain kicks back in and starts trying to make sense of it, and it goes straight to the shame spiral.
Shame is, bizarrely, a survival mechanism. It sounds totally counterintuitive, I know.
Yeah, how is that supposed to help?
Because if your brain can convince you that you made a mistake, that you were reckless, then it creates a false sense of control.
Oh, I see. If it was my fault, I can stop it from happening again.
Exactly. If it was just random, senseless violence, then you are completely helpless.
Yeah.
So the brain, to protect you from that feeling of helplessness, starts tearing you apart.
Dressed like an invitation, turned a bad decision into a sentence for life. It's so painful to hear her say that because we know it wasn't her fault.
But she's internalizing the blame to try and make the world make sense again. If I hadn't agreed to the scene, if I hadn't warned this, it wouldn't have happened. It's a logical fallacy, but it's a protective one in that moment.
And then we get into the practical aftermath, the stuff that movies always skip over. She has to call someone. The lyric is, come pick me up. Don't ask, just drive.
That desperation just to be moved. She's so frozen she can't even move herself. She needs an external force just to extract her from the situation.
And then she gets home and tries to clean it off. She stands in the shower for 3 hours.
Flushed you away down a drain. But that leads to a huge, huge problem when she finally does seek help.
The systemic failure. She goes to a clinic. But because she showered, which is the most natural, human response to feeling violated and dirty.
The evidence is compromised. It's gone.
The lyrics paint such a tired, hopeless picture. The doctor is exhausted. He barely even looks at her. And the line that just killed me is, no glass on the floor.
That is such a profound metaphor.
Isn't it?
If someone breaks into your house, they smash a window. There's physical proof. There is glass on the floor. A crime occurred.
But with this kind of assault, especially one that starts from a place of consent, There's often no broken glass.
The violence is internal. The bruises might not even be visible. So the world looks at you and sees nothing wrong.
The villain is walking with nowhere to hide, because from the outside, there's nothing to hide from. There's no proof. So she's just left holding this horrible secret.
Which brings us to the moment of disclosure. Section 3. A track just called The Nod.
The Nod. And I've got to say, this is where the entire narrative takes a turn I absolutely did not see coming.
Me neither. It's a crucial pivot.
So she has to tell her partner, her boyfriend at the time. And based on everything we've heard so far, the self-blame, the shame, I was just cringing. I was waiting for this conversation to be a disaster.
She was too. The lyrics say she was waiting for the gavel, waiting for the frown. She expected him to be a judge.
To ask all those horrible questions. Why were you there? Why were you still doing sex work? Why did you let him do that?
She calls herself damaged goods. She thinks she's bringing him this pile of wreckage. She says, I anticipated the fire.
And let's pause on that. Because usually in movies or TV shows, when a woman tells her male partner she was assaulted, what does he do?
He explodes. He punches a wall. He screams, I'm going to kill him.
Right. The big macho protective response. And we're sort of taught that this is the loving response. It shows he cares.
But think about what that actually does. If he starts screaming and punching things, who is the situation about now?
It's about him. It's about his rage.
Exactly. It completely centers his feelings. And frankly, it makes the survivor feel unsafe because now there's more violence and rage in the room with her.
But that's not what happens here.
No.
It's the opposite.
She says, the room stayed quiet.
Huh.
You didn't offer to burn down the place. And then he nods.
He lifted the wreckage and saw what it was, and he gave her the nod. It's such a small gesture.
So small. But in that moment, it was everything.
It was a container for her pain. He didn't explode with his own feelings. He didn't crumble under the weight of hers. He didn't judge her. He just acknowledged her reality.
She calls it bittersweet medicine because in that moment, she realized she wasn't crazy for feeling the fall.
It validated her. The whole world, the clinic, the no glass on the floor, told her it didn't really happen.
Yeah.
The nod meant he believed her.
And that's the difference between external justice, which she never gets,
and internal validation. The lyric says, shame is finally curled up and gone to its bed.
The shame is asleep. She's in a safe relationship. She's validated. Happy ending, right? Album over. You would think so. But this is a neurological map, remember? And the brain does not work that way at all.
Which brings us to Section 4, Architecture of Entropy.
And bam. Suddenly, those screaming violins are back. And they're louder than ever before.
So wait, what is going on? She's safe now. Why is the panic music back?
This is what clinicians call the paradox of safety. And it is one of the most confusing and painful parts of trauma recovery.
The paradox of safety.
Yes. When you're in the middle of the crisis, you're just running on adrenaline. You're in pure survival mode. You hold it together because you have to.
Okay.
But when you finally get to a safe place, when you're in a quiet room with a partner who loves you, the adrenaline finally drops. And the brain suddenly has the bandwidth to process the absolute horror of what happened.
So the safety actually triggers the breakdown.
It triggers the processing, which feels like a breakdown. The body's alarm system gets stuck in the RM position. Now that the immediate threat is gone, the amygdala is desperately scanning for the next one. It goes into hyperdrive.
The lyrics in the song are just frantic. Cortisol is gravity, pulling down the sky.
What a line. It's not just a feeling. It's a physical weight.
She talks about a primitive pilot gripping the wheel.
That is the perfect description of an amygdala hijack. The prefrontal cortex, the part of our brain for logic, planning, personality, it gets shoved into the backseat. The lizard brain is driving the car now.
And she's sitting there with her supportive partner, but her brain is treating him like a threat, tracking every movement of the shadow of your head.
That's hypervigilance.
Yeah.
She hears a whisper in the fan. Her brain is amplifying every single sensory input, searching for danger where there is none.
It's a mismatch. She calls it a supercomputer built for a savage age, trapped inside a mundane, polite little cage.
Her biology is primed to fight a saber-toothed tiger, but she's just sitting on her sofa trying to watch TV.
That sounds absolutely exhausting.
It is debilitating. It uses a tremendous amount of metabolic energy, which is why so many people with PTSD suffer from chronic fatigue.
So she's stuck in this horrible loop of being triggered in a safe place. Which leads us to Section 5, the gap. This feels like the real technical turning point of the album.
It's the moment she finds a tool, a way to intervene. The problem, as she describes it, is that she's a runaway train.
A trigger happens, something as small as keys dropping on the counter, and instantly, hard hits a rib cage. She's right back in the panic.
There is zero pause between the stimulus and the response.
And her response is the survival switch. She says she wants to burn it all down or tear you apart to protect the ruins. She's lashing out at the very people trying to help her.
Which is tragic, but so common. So the solution she finds is the gap.
The gap.
It's a concept often attributed to Viktor Frankl, the psychiatrist and Holocaust survivor. He said, between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response.
And she has to find that space. So how does she do it? In the song, she counts. I count 5, 4, I remember your name.
It sounds almost insultingly simple, but it is legitimate neurobiological hacking.
How does that work?
By forcing herself to count backwards, to articulate a logical sequence, she is manually engaging her prefrontal cortex, the logic center.
You can't be fully in your lizard brain and count backwards at the same time.
You can't.
Yeah.
You are forcing the logical part of your brain to come back online.
And that line, I remember your name, feels so important.
It's the anchor. It's the core of the practice. She is actively differentiating the past from the present. She's telling her own brain, that was the one who hurt me back then. This is not him. I am safe in this kitchen.
She is consciously widening that gap, even if it's just for a split second.
A split second is all you need to start. A split second to choose not to attack.
To hit the brakes on the runaway train, she's reclaiming her own agency.
And once you have agency, even a little, you can start to rebuild your identity. Which leads us directly to the anthem of this whole project, Section 6, Tougher Than You Know.
This track just feels different. The sound is different. It's not the screaming violins, and it's not the muddy sludge. It's harder. Yeah. It's rock, but it's structured.
I think it's the sound of integration. She's taking both sides of that sonic war and forging them into something new.
And she's addressing the outside world again. The external gaze. People look at her and they see the girl who likes the party too much. They see the wreckage. A victim.
But she just flips the script entirely.
You weren't there when the sun came up. I love that line. It's like, you didn't see me survive the night, so you don't to judge my morning.
And she completely redefines what strength even looks like. We have this tendency to romanticize resilience. You know, we think of it as this soft, graceful, noble thing.
But that's not what she's saying.
No, she says real strength, survival strength, is jagged and ugly and hard and cold.
Sharpened in the middle of the night.
Exactly. Survival isn't pretty. It leaves scars. It makes you hard in places you used to be soft. She calls herself the Queen of the Ashes.
A house that burned but didn't burn down.
That imagery is so powerful. The fire changed the structure forever, but the foundation held.
I walked through the fire and I kept my name.
And that, right there, is the core victory of the whole story. The assault took her safety, her trust, her career, but it did not take her name. It didn't take her essential self.
And she also touches on the performance of being okay, the fake smiles through the holidays.
A reminder that while she's feeling this jagged strength on the inside, she still has to present a normal face to the world, to the doctor who didn't have time.
It's that duality of the survivor, the public face and the private war. So she has her armor on, she knows she's tough, but then comes the part of the story that I found really surprising, the growth stage.
She decides to go back.
First, physically, Section 7, messed up.
This track is basically exposure therapy set to music, which is a clinical practice of gradually, safely confronting the things that scare you.
To retrain the brain.
To retrain the brain that they aren't actually dangerous anymore.
So she goes back to the park, the actual park where she was left. The lyrics describe walking past the shadows where the streetlights used to flicker.
And you can hear the anxiety kick back in. The hum of the lights, the poles moving quicker. Her body is remembering. The geography itself is a trigger.
So why do it? I mean, why not just avoid that park for the rest of her life?
Because if she avoids the park forever, the park owns a piece of her. The trauma owns that piece of the map. It has a big blank spot that says, "Here be monsters."
So she has to go back to slay the monster.
Or maybe just to see that the monster was never really there. By walking through it, feeling the fear and surviving it, she is reclaiming every inch of the ground I call my own. She's rewriting her own map.
Turning the monster's lair back into just a park, a place with dirt and lights.
Exactly. And she gives herself grace while doing it. Gave myself permission to stumble and break. She knows she might panic. She knows it will be hard. But she does it anyway.
And that's courage, isn't it? Not the absence of fear, but acting in spite of it.
Absolutely.
So she reclaims the physical space. That's step 1. Step 2. Step 2 is significantly harder. Section 8, vetting the dark.
She goes back to the community.
This is the point where I think a lot of listeners might just pause and say, wait, what?
I'm sure.
She returns to the adult kink and BDSM community, the very environment where the trauma happened. To the average person, that looks like pure madness.
The vanilla perspective, and I use that term affectionately, would be you get bitten by a shark, you don't jump back in the tank.
Right. So why?
Because this was her world. It was her social circle, her lifestyle, maybe even a part of her identity. If she abandons it completely, the assault has taken yet another thing from her.
It's exiled her from her own life.
Precisely. But she makes a key distinction. She isn't there for work. She isn't there to be a pro-dom or even to play. She says, hungry for connection, but I won't just feed.
She's there to connect, but the rules are totally different now. My body is a temple. I don't need a savior.
She is there to vet, to run diagnostics on the people in that room.
And the song breaks down these interactions into very clear red flags and green flags. It's like a safety manual in a song.
It really is. Let's look at the red flags first.
Yeah.
She meets the old guard guy.
Puffs his chest out, immediately starts talking about ownership and chains.
He assumes her pain. He wants to be the master to guide her. This is a massive, massive red flag.
Why? What's so bad about that?
He's projecting his own fantasy onto her before he even knows her name. He wants to own her trauma, not know her as a person. He's skipping the negotiation entirely.
Okay, that makes sense. Then there's the boy. He wants degradation, wants her to spit on him.
And she sets a very clear, calm boundary. No, darling, that's not my play.
And he pouts. He acts like a child who was just denied a toy.
That inability to hear no gracefully is another huge red flag. It shows he's not interested in her boundaries, only his own desires.
But then she finds a green flag. The wriggle.
A rigor. A rope artist. And notice the description. He's not a predator. He's geeky and sharp.
He doesn't talk about owning her. He discusses nerves and anatomy. He asks about flow.
He's not looking at her with hunger or lust. He's looking at her like an engineer looks at a bridge. How do we do this safely? How do we make this work for you?
Separating the shadows from the things that fight. That line sums it all up.
She finds a safe place to land within that world, but only by being incredibly selective and in control.
She realizes she can be in the dark as long as she's the one holding the flashlight.
She can be in the kink world without being a victim as long as she strictly vets and controls who gets access to her.
So she's reclaimed the park. She's reclaimed her community. There's one last frontier to conquer.
The digital world.
Section 9. Changing my settings.
This is such a modern, crucial part of the story. We live so much of our lives online now. And in her past work, being online meant being available. It meant being a product.
She talks about the constant buzzing of a digital leash, the demand to know where she's been. Why didn't you text back? Share your location.
That kind of digital surveillance is so often framed as closeness or trust in modern relationships.
If you love me, you'll give me your password.
Right. But for a survivor of a power exchange violation, that doesn't feel like trust. It feels like another cage.
So she decides to sever those ties completely. I'm logging out, unlink the cloud. She talks about deleting the browser history of the past, a full digital cleansing.
And in doing so, she reclaims privacy as a fundamental human right, not as a secret she's keeping. Love is not a password shared. Trust is not a location pin.
She's saying, I can love you and still have a part of my life that is just for me.
I'm not angry, I'm just offline. I feel like so many of us need that on a t-shirt.
I really do. It's such a powerful declaration of autonomy.
She's choosing the messy, loud, traffic-filled real world over the curated, controlled, surveilled digital one.
It's the final step of the exit. She has physically left, she has socially set her boundaries, and now digitally she's free. Which brings us to the resolution.
Section 10. Weight of the world is not mine.
And here, finally, the sonic war ends.
The fighting stops.
The violins have stopped screaming, the grunge sludge has finally lifted, and we get this big, open, major chord finish, it sounds like.
Really?
Breathing, like an exhale.
That is the sound of a regulated nervous system. The threat is gone. The freeze has thawed. And the central realization is so simple, but so profound.
I woke up this morning, and the world didn't break.
She stopped fixing things. She stopped managing everyone's emotions. She stopped carrying everyone else's weight. And the sun still came up. Nothing fell apart.
This is the end of the fawning response.
Exactly. She talks about letting go of the chameleon. She used to be radar scanning for threats, constantly changing her colors to please people, to keep the predator happy so he wouldn't attack.
But not anymore. I'm not a chameleon. I'm seeing the truth with my own open eyes. She doesn't have to blend in to survive.
And the final beautiful lesson is about this huge, heavy backpack she's been carrying this whole time.
Just shame.
The shame was mine to carry. She finally realizes that the weight of the assault, the industry, the judgment, none of that belongs to her. It belongs to the perpetrator. It belongs to the system. And she just puts it down.
And she ends with this quiet, healthy assertiveness. I said no, and the walls didn't fall. She tested a boundary, and the world held.
Her nervous system is finally home. We have traveled all the way from the savage age of the amygdala back in architecture of entropy.
To the steady, glowing flow of the present, the map is complete. She found the exit.
Wow. What a journey. I mean, really, from handed you the key to weight of the world.
It's just incredible to see how Ti-Fi used the music itself, not just to tell her story, but to literally hack her own neurobiology, to map it so she could navigate her way out.
It really is proof that art isn't just an expression, it's a survival tool. By giving the panic a sound, the violins, and giving the depression a sound, the grunge, she could observe it.
And understand it.
And eventually control it. She burned down the house of her old life, but you know what? She kept her name.
Survival isn't shameful. I think that's the big takeaway for me. You can go through that fire and come out jagged and ugly and hard, and that is something to be incredibly proud of.
Absolutely. That is the ultimate victory.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, we want to leave you with a thought. We've talked so much about the sounds of trauma, the screaming strings, the muddy guitars, but the album doesn't end in silence. It ends on a major chord, a new sound.
Which I think raises a really provocative question for all of us. If trauma has a sound, what does healing sound like to you?
Is it silence? Is it a melody you remember? Or is it a new kind of music entirely, one that you get to compose yourself?
Something to think about.
Thank you for listening to this deep dive into Tougher Than You Know. We'll catch you on the next one.